this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. I have another exciting episode for you today. What I'm going to do today are a few things. Number one, I'm going to share with you what's inside my fridge. Some people always want to know, hey John, because you're on a plant-based raw diet, what do you eat? So we're going to show you what the majority of my diet consists of. And I would encourage you to eat a diet similar to mine. I've been researching and eating a raw foods diet for the past 17 years now. And I got it pretty much dialed in my opinion. So the hints and tips that I give you in this video are based on all my years of experience. I want to encourage you guys out there in YouTube land to, follow people that you know and trust that have been getting the results that you want. Before I show you guys what's in my fridge, I want to share with you my thoughts on what fridge to buy if you have the choice and are going to be buying a fridge. The absolute best fridge to get if you're on a raw foods diet is the fridge with the most refrigerator space and the least amount of freezer space, as you'll see in just a second. So the kind that meets my needs the most right now that are available are basically French door fridges. They basically have the freezer on the bottom, which if you're a raw foodist, you shouldn't be using that much of your freezer. It should be mostly empty. So why even, you could almost not even have a freezer and you probably wouldn't miss it. But I do like to have some frozen things on hand in some situations. So have a fridge such as a French door fridge. That's the one with the freezer on the bottom and the two doors that open up. They have some nice large shelves where you can store lots of produce in there. That can be very handy. Otherwise, I'd recommend one with the freezer on the bottom, which is two standard doors. And then lastly, I really don't like these guys, which are the side-by-sides. I mean, the side-by-sides are great if you're a cooked food and processed food eater, because you're going to have a lot of frozen foods that you're going to throw in the microwave. But as somebody who's eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, you're not going to be using a whole lot of frozen stuff. So with that, let's go ahead and open up this fridge and see what we got. Let's check out what's in that fridge. Let's open up that fridge door and check out what's in the fridge. All right, lots of fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. Before I go on, I definitely want to talk about the temperature controls in your fridge. So you can see here, we got the freezer temperature and the refrigerator. You can see it says colder this way, so like 7 would be coldest in this fridge, and 1 is not quite as cold. So I like to have my fridge on the not quite as cold level for a few reasons. Number one, it saves energy. I think my fridge is set to about 37, 38 degrees. In addition, that's also helpful because when I'm eating the food that's in the fridge, it's at that temperature. And whenever we eat cold food, it kind of, I want to say, shocks our system, and the food needs to be heated up to our temperature, 98 degrees, in order to be digested. So I like trying to have it closer, than more far away. So if you have your food at 32, it might store a little bit longer, but also it's going to be a little bit more work for your body to digest it. Let's go through my refrigerator shelf by shelf. Number one, you can see here I have basically these little packages of strawberries. These are organic strawberries. Organic. They're $5.99 for 2 pounds. I got 5 of them total. I ate one yesterday. And there's 4 left, and I'm going to eat those pretty quick. They're right on the top shelf to remind me, hey, eat your strawberries, because they tend to expire fast. And that's one of the things you'll notice in my fridge. I have things right in the open that need to get eaten immediately or really soon. So when I open it, I'm like, oh, I'll just go for the strawberries really quick, because either use them or lose them. And that's that goes with all the food you have. Next, you can see we have a little Pyrex bowl, and I like to store things in glass instead of plastic. Glass is real, it doesn't off-gas or leach. And then in there we have cauliflower that was picked from my garden last night. That being said, I picked all the cauliflower to eat last night, but I became too full, and it's always good to stop when you're full and not overeat. So I put it in the fridge to save it, and I'll be probably juicing it or eating it later today. The next thing we have in here, I have some raw organic sauerkraut. So I like to consume sauerkraut, a few times a week. It adds a nice salty flavor, but also the probiotic beneficial bacteria to my foods. I usually eat that a little bit with dinner or mix into my dressing. Next shelf down here, you'll see we have a Mydrid of stuff. The first thing we got to cover are the coconuts. So you can see here, mostly I have the young Thai coconuts at this point. A lot of times will get the Mexican coconuts that I do not keep in the fridge. Keep those out of the fridge, but the Thai coconuts I keep in the fridge. So a question you might be thinking, hey John, how do you know if you should keep something in the fridge or not? Well, one of the easiest ways to know is generally if you buy something at the store and it's in the fridge, then you want to put it back in the fridge once you get it home. Now that's not always the rule, but that's generally a good practice to follow. So the coconuts were fridged when I got them, and now I'm fridging them now. The next thing you'll see, I have a bunch of avos or avocados. I have both the Haas variety, which I don't care for too much, and the Fuerte variety, which I really like a lot. They're really good, and once again, these are on the edge of the shelf in the front to hit me right in the face when I open it, because guess what? These guys are ripe and ready to eat. If I let these out, they'd probably go bad faster. So I put things in the fridge to stop the ripening process, and I'll be eating these within the next few days. In addition, we got some asparagus. I love eating asparagus, especially when it's in season and local. This is actually locally grown asparagus, and we're going to talk a little bit about food storage right now. On the asparagus, you know, I like to model how the stores, you know, sell the produce or how they display it. And, you know, because they know they're displaying the produce in a certain way to extend its shelf life or life, because if it goes bad, then they're losing money. So we could take hints and clues from this, and oftentimes when I go see asparagus in the store, guess what? They store it in just a little bit of water. So I have it in a little measuring cup here with a little bit of water in the bottom, so it could basically sit in there and absorb the water and stay fresher longer. That being said, it is also on a shelf so that I will use it relatively quickly, you know, before it goes bad, because they tend to spoil pretty fast, and also the flavor goes down. These were picked and actually purchased at the farmer's market. Next over here we got some Adolfo or Manila or Champagne mangoes. These guys are great. They're low fiber. You know, they don't have all the strings that the regular mangoes have. And once again, these are normally out of the fridge unless they're super ripe, and then I need to save them, you know, from going bad. So these are in the fridge because they need to be eaten now. And once again, they're in the front. I also have a melon, and this is an organic melon, and this guy is pretty ripe, ready to eat too. And it's once again front and center. I'll probably be eating that guy tomorrow. Next, let's see, meat storage container, or the fresh meat. Guess what's in there? Nothing. I could use that as overflow for fruits and vegetables if I needed it, but I didn't need to. Moving down, we have a nice 10-pound bag of organic Bunny Love carrots. I like the Bunny Love carrots. They're one of the sweetest carrots, you know, especially if you're juicing. I tend to juice carrots sometimes, but also shred them up on salads and whatnot. We have some romaine hearts, and I got 6 packages of 3 right there. Now, these romaine hearts are mainly used for juicing. Like, to me, to eat these romaine hearts, they're just like, gag me with a spoon. They don't like taste so good because they're not quite as fresh, and some people say these are treated. I usually, you know, wash them good, and sometimes I'll remove the outer leaves and just eat the hearts. You know, these guys aren't super dark, rich green, and I want to encourage you guys to eat your leafy greens and things that are dark and rich, you know, deep color green, not like this almost yellowish color. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. In addition, I got these little Ziploc bags here. These were purchased actually from my local farmer's market. Some spinach, you know, about a pound in each little bag there. So, gonna use that probably for juicing or blend up a green smoothie with it. Next, we have crispers. And in the crispers, you can set the humidity either high or low. I have mine set on low. I don't like to get things too humid. And let's go ahead and open this guy up. And inside here, we got some Eurofresh cucumbers. These are grown in the U.S. or hothouse grown. And these are pesticide free right there. Pesticide free. And I like these guys, especially when cucumbers are not in season. They're nice and large, and these ones were about $1 each. And these guys will probably get used in a juice, actually, because they're nice and big. In addition, down here, we have some fresh picked kale that I picked at a farm. And so I'll be using that also to juice. Oh, and there's also some radishes in here as well. So one of the things you'll notice in my fridge, you know, I have a variety of things. I have all different kinds of fruits and vegetables in my fridge. I don't just have all romaine and, you know, a case of bananas. No, no, no. You want to eat a variety of foods and have a big variety of things you can't eat, because when you get the urge to eat, you know, you might feel like romaine, or you might feel like spinach, or you might feel like carrot juice, or maybe avocados, or even young coconuts. Moving down along, got the last drawer here. And in here we got some organic celery. Sometimes I like to eat celery as a salad, so chopped up celery instead of leafy greens. And or I could juice a celery into a juice. In addition, we have these little peppers. These are hothouse grown peppers that I buy when peppers aren't in season, and they usually taste pretty good. I'll just basically cut off the greens and I'll just blend them up as I did last night. In addition, we have these guys right here. These are the, once again, hothouse grown Euro cucumbers, mini cucumbers. And these actually taste a lot better than the English ones, although they are a fair bit more expensive. So these ones I reserve for eating in salads or dipping in guacamole or dipping in a dip or something like that. That'll do it for the tour of my fridge. Now, that's definitely a lot of food. That'll probably last me just about a week, because I definitely will start juicing and start going through some of these romaine hearts, and I just went shopping the other day. Next, let's go ahead and open up my freezer right here. Open up the freezer and check it out what's in there. A whole lot of nothing. Because if you are into raw foods, that's how your freezer should look. Actually, I got some packets to keep things cold, but your freezer should be pretty much empty, because you don't want to be eating a whole lot of frozen foods. Frozen foods don't have quite the same nutrition as fresh foods over here, and that's why I also recommend that your fridge have a small freezer. The thing I do have here are some frozen fruits. So especially in the summertime, I do like to put some frozen fruits in my smoothie to make it cold, to simulate like a milkshake type consistency. So what we have here is an organic antioxidant blend of cherries, pomegranates, strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries. So I do eat some frozen foods occasionally in the summertime when it is really warm. Otherwise, I basically work the frozen foods out of my diet. They're not quite as good as having things fresh. That encompasses my whole fridge. Next, let's go over and show you guys what's not in the fridge, because some foods, actually I prefer not to store in the fridge, because then it's more at room temperature, which is closer to my body temperature. Also, some things store better out of the fridge, such as tomatoes. In the fridge, they'll actually spoil faster, and actually you're going to lose a lot of the flavor. So let's check out my rack where I have all my fruits stored, and go over those as well. Next, we're going to go over what I don't have in the refrigerator. So mainly my fruits here I don't have in my refrigerator. I do this for a few reasons. Number one, these can take valuable room up in the fridge for other things that I could use the space for. Number two, like I mentioned earlier, I don't like to eat things that are too cold. That shocks my system. Out in nature, we would always be eating things that are at the ambient temperature of the outside. And when you eat things that are a little bit colder, it kind of shocks your system. So generally, if I'm making a smoothie, I'll take some berries from the fridge and then actually mix them with some room temperature things. Or if I'm eating berries, maybe I'll wash them with a little bit warm water and then leave them out for a little while, and then eat them finally when they warm up a little bit, so it doesn't quite shock my system. I prefer that a lot better than eating things that are straight out of the fridge, or even worse, things straight out of the freezer, just way too cold. So you'll see that most of the things outside of my fridge are the fruits. Now, most fruits, in my opinion, keep better outside the fridge than inside. Number one, for the temperature. Number two, it may allow them to ripen up a little bit more. Most fruits do not ripen after they've been harvested, and they will go bad. So, if you overbuy too much fruit, then you would definitely want to put it in the fridge so that it would last longer. But what I would encourage you to do is maybe take out enough for the next few days and then leave that outside to be at room temperature. Also, this way, if they're not in the fridge and they're actually arranged really beautifully, which is another thing I would encourage you to do, is to organize the fruit and vegetables in your fridge and also outside and make it look attractive. Much like you're walking into a produce section at the store. I mean, they got all those great displays, and looking at some of those produce displays makes you hungry. And the same thing should happen when you're at home. When you see nice displays of produce at home, you're like, man, that looks good, I want to eat it. And guess what? You own it all, so you can. So anyways, let's go ahead and show you guys what I have outside the fridge. As you can see, I got all my produce displayed nicely. Almost looks like a little produce section at the store. You can see here I have a whole bunch of oranges. These are navel oranges, all organic. Got these for a really good price. And I have all these displayed really nicely, all stacked up. The other thing you want to remember is when you're storing things out of the fridge, they're going to go bad a little bit quicker. So you constantly want to be going through and checking out your produce, and every day you want to take a little bit of time and look through and make sure there's no bad spots. And if you spot a bad spot, then guess what? Normally what I do is I cut off a section that has the bad spot. That kind of decides for me what I'm eating next, if I can't decide. So that's one good tip. The next thing you'll see, I have some pineapples. I like to juice the pineapples up. Once again, most pineapples we get here in the States are this kind of color right here, kind of green, and they're not so ripe. This one up at the top is a bit riper. It's kind of like a nice golden yellow color and turning a little bit more, so this is actually riper, but I still would not eat this. It's going to burn my mouth, but if I juice it, then that helps a lot. Or another technique you can use is pre-cut it all and put it in the fridge in a glass bowl. Let it sit overnight, and then eat it the next day. Then it probably won't burn quite as much. That being said, I like to enjoy fresh pineapples when in the tropics. So normally they're juiced or sometimes blended. Next, of course, I have some organic bananas. And I really don't like my bananas, and I'm not a good 30 banana a day person because I might eat 0 a day, maybe 2 a day. In this case, I like to have bananas for smoothies. They add a nice consistency. Sometimes I'll actually take the bananas and freeze them and use them, you know, as my frozen fruit if I don't buy frozen fruit, because they're also a lot less expensive. And calories per dollar, they're one of the best raw foods you could eat for the most calories for the cheapest amount of money. That being said, they're not a very nutrient-dense food. Now, what is nutrient-dense food? A nutrient-dense food is food that has high nutrients, or, you know, phytonutrients, phytochemicals, antioxidants, things like that. And bananas aren't super high on that list, although I'd probably eat that over a cheeseburger any day. Next, we can move into something that's a lot more antioxidant rich, and those guys are also fruits. These are tomatoes. Don't fridge your tomatoes. If you don't remember anything else from this video, don't fridge your tomatoes. Tomatoes, the flavor is ruined in the fridge. You know, they don't taste as good, and they actually don't last quite as long. So you can see here I have several different varieties of tomatoes. I have some yellow tomatoes, some orange tomatoes, and some organic Roma tomatoes here. And in addition, I got these guys here. These guys are actually called the Euro Fresh Farms Bella Bites, grown in the USA, and of course they're certified pesticide free. I like these small style cherry tomatoes a lot. They're just good, you know, literally for snacking. You could just reach in here. These guys are so sweet, I could just eat a meal of these. And I mean, while I would maybe do that on tomatoes, normally I like to use these in salads or blend them up into a dressing or something like that. But these guys, much better for eating alone. In addition, this is my next meal, and it's getting me hungry, and actually I'm quite hungry right now, so I got to finish this video up. These guys right here, these are locally grown peaches that I got at the farmer's market. First of the year, they're actually quite small, actually really small, but they're actually quite good for first of the year peaches, so I'm excited to be actually eating those for my next meal. Next, we got a whole bunch of apples. Generally, I like to juice apples, and much like bananas, unless they're fresh, I don't like to eat the apples too much. So I'll juice them into like green juices so that it'll make my green juices taste better. In addition, we have some grapefruits, and the grapefruits, once again, are usually for juice. I don't like to eat grapefruits too much. I just don't personally like them too much, unless they're cocktail grapefruits, in which case they're awesome. In addition, you'll notice I have some avocados, actually 2 different varieties here as well. And these guys, you know, you might be thinking, hey John, you had some in the fridge, you got to store them in the fridge or out of the fridge. Well, guess what? You want to store them out of the fridge to ripen if they're not ripe and not soft yet. And once they get ripe and you have too many out of the fridge, then put them in the fridge. So I would only encourage you to put them in the fridge as needed. So if that's all the food I got as a raw foodist, I would be sucking really hard. But hey, wait, most of you guys probably have stuff in the fridge and stuff out of the fridge. And there's one other category that you guys, everybody as a raw foodist should have. You guys should be growing your own food. And you know, the other thing I have where I can eat from is my garden. So let's head outside, talk about that a little bit. Besides inside my fridge, outside my fridge, inside for my produce, the best place of all for any produce and the stuff I'd rather eat the most is actually outside. This is at ambient room temperature. Once again, you don't have the issue with the change in degrees when you're eating it because it's closer to our body temperature. Actually today it's probably in the 80s maybe if I'm lucky. So it's a much closer to our temperature. And the other thing that's super critical and super important is that it's super fresh. I mean, these plants are still living as you pick it and eat it. A lot of times I'll come out to the garden and just sample things walking around. And that's absolutely the best way to eat raw foods. Not stuff in the fridge and not stuff out of the fridge that you bought in commerce, but stuff you grew yourself. So currently I grow most of the vegetables that I consume, and that's why I didn't have a lot of vegetables inside the fridge. And I don't grow a lot of fruits because it takes a lot more room to have fruit trees. And one day I hope to live on property where I could grow the majority of my fruits and vegetables. Until that time, I'm going to focus on growing a lot of vegetables and some of my fruits. And then, of course, I have to supplement at the store, or actually better than that is the farmer's market, where you could get things hopefully a lot fresher picked. Because once again, I want to talk about food quality. You want to eat the highest quality and most vibrant foods you can. And the most vibrant foods you can eat are the ones actually out of your garden. Next, let's go ahead and tour you guys around the garden and show you guys how I have it set up, and also some of the amazing varieties and some of the things that I'm growing currently in my garden. So here's the garden tour, and you know, if you want to learn more about gardening and growing your own food, please visit my other website, growingyourgreens.com. I have over 600 videos that will show you and teach you how to grow your own food. It is really simple. And in this bed here, this is just a standard 4-foot circular raised bed. This kit was only $10 at Walmart. Then I filled it up with some organic compost and rock dust and put an irrigation system on top. And you can see in the bed currently I have some eggplants growing, also some basil growing, and also in the middle I got my famous tree collards. They're actually so delicious. In this bed we have more tree collards, and these things literally grow as a tree. These guys are 6 feet tall here, and this is a plant that actually produces leaves 365 days a year. And this is why I don't have too much kale or collard greens in my fridge, because if I want kale or collard greens, I'll come out to my tree collards. These guys are one of the sweetest kales in the winter time to eat. And you know, kales and collards, to me, they're all similar. They're very nutrient dense. They're actually 1,000 on the nutrient density index, actually the Andes scoring. And they're one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. And I literally have all I could eat. I have over 24 plants here in my garden. Below the tree collards in this bed, I have a whole bunch of herbs. So organic herbs are actually quite expensive to buy, but they're very simple to grow, and many herbs are actually some of the easiest plants to grow. So I'd encourage you to grow fresh herbs and you know, use a little bit in your raw food preparations. While I wouldn't make a meal out of the hot and spicy oregano, this stuff is crazy. It tastes like hot peppers, but it's oregano. There it is, hot and spicy oregano. I do like to add a few just to my dressings at night, you know, when I blend them up. Tastes so good. In addition, if you are growing your own food, you'll get to have the benefit of something like this. This is standard sage. And you know, you could go over here and pick these flowers. These flowers, once you pick them, you can see that little white part on the end. That has a little bit of nectar, and that's what like hummingbirds like. It's so sweet and so delicious. Plus, when you're eating the purple flowers, you're getting purple antioxidants. And you know, you want to eat your foods of color. In addition, when you're eating flowers, you're also getting the flower pollen, which is actually rich in amino acids, otherwise known as protein. So why let the bees collect the pollen when you can eat them directly yourself? In addition, I got an artichoke plant here kind of for fun. It's a perennial, you know, chives, and actually this one here is really cool. I love it a lot. This one's stevia. You can make your own teas. Sometimes I like to flavor desserts with stevia leaves instead of using a processed sweetener, and you could literally just pick these leaves fresh and use them to make things taste sweet, but there's no sugar in it. Over there I got some lemongrass, some thyme. Hey, you got the thyme. And over here I got some rosemary, so a bunch of different herbs, as well as marigolds. I got marigolds, the flowers. Yes, the flowers are edible right here. These guys are high in lutein and zeaxanthin, and they have actually supplements in the health food store that you can buy to help improve your vision and things like that. And they're basically extracts from marigold flowers. So why not grow your own marigold flowers and sprinkle them over your salad every night? Not only will your salad look beautiful, it'll also be more healthful for you. Over in this raised bed, we got something a little bit different. We got also the tree collards, 4 plants. And also I'm growing a lot of things that grow really well in this climate here. And this is parsley. Sometimes I like to harvest the parsley and just eat that as my salad. As you can see in the base of this bed, we have about 10 parsley plants. And once again, I could come out here any day and, you know, basically pinch off or cut off some parsley from each plant and have enough for a salad. If I had just one plant and clear cut it for all the greens, then it wouldn't be able to reproduce and grow more. But this way, I could literally eat a little bit, you know, today, and then it'll just grow back later. In addition, in the middle, I have a few cool things. I'm growing some Korean mallow. These are seeds I brought back from Korea. And in addition, right here, we have some more specialized perennial variegated kale. Actually, that's a Dick Picote's kale. Really cool. So we're experimenting with that, and hopefully that's also perennial and will grow year-round here. In this bed here, we're growing some more stuff. We got more kale. This is actually called walking stick kale. Grows tall and nice into walking stick that the stalk is used for. I personally like to eat the kale. This is a nice, stronger variety of kale. Tastes more like a kale than the tree collards that are more actually sweet. In addition, we got these guys right here coming up. These guys are actually Jerusalem artichokes, so these are grown for the underneath the ground, the tubers. High in inulin, really good to feed your probiotics. In addition, I think we got one squash plant in the middle in this bed. Over in this bed, we got a bed kind of more in the shade, so I planted some things that'll do a little bit better in the shade, including a lot more parsley. I love my parsley, man. I'll eat this stuff instead of, you know, lettuce. And actually, guess what? Parsley is more nutrient dense than lettuce because it has a darker green coloring. We got some Italian parsley. In addition, we densely pack this with the tree collards, and these were just planted about 30 days ago, so they're still rather young. In addition, I got some stuff here. These are probably my favorite kind of onion thing. This is actually called or actually called Chinese chives. Chinese chives are quite mild compared to other chives. You could literally just cut these off, and they don't have a really strong onion flavor. You could almost use them instead of greens. So a friend gave me some of these plants, and I got 4 little areas with that stuff, and I hope it takes over. In addition, you'll notice I have some mints. I have 4 different varieties of mints. Mints are great to flavor up your juices or smoothies, and you only need a little bit, and that goes a long way. So over here I have orange mint. Over here is my favorite. This is the chocolate mint. I also have some standard mints, spearmint and mint the best. And I don't like these so much. And you'll notice these are planted in containers because if you plant mint in your raised bed, they'll actually spread out and take over. And I don't want them to take over. Over in these 2 beds, I have 2 beds of peppers. I love peppers. Peppers grow well in this climate here. And hopefully, probably within about 2 months, I'll be eating some peppers out of my garden. In addition, I have some marigolds. Here's yet another raised bed. We got a myriad of things growing. In this one, we got chard. So instead of buying chard or Swiss chard, you know, I could pick my own chard every day. And we're growing a rainbow variety of chard. Over here, we got the yellow chard. I think this is like a green chard. And then we got the red chard. And we're just planting it all around. And once again, you know, using sustainable harvesting techniques, I could go around and pick like 1 or 2 leaves off each clump, and the clump will still have enough leaves to continue to grow for me and make more food. In the middle is one of my favorite beans, although I'm not a big consumer of beans. We planted these from seed about a month ago, and some of these guys are almost 3 feet tall, 2.5 feet tall. These guys are called runner beans or scarlet runner beans. They're an heirloom plant that actually were grown in the Americas. And the thing I like about these guys is that these guys will produce a little bean pod, and when they're young, you could eat them much like sugar snap peas. They're actually quite delicious off the plant. Once they get older, then you kind of do need to cook them so that you can eat them. All beans do have some naturally occurring toxins. So we're trellising these guys up a couple different trellises because they will actually grow quite tall. I mean, this is only a month of growth, and this is already up 4 feet, and it's just, I mean, it literally wraps itself around. Super cool. Let's see, we have 2 beds of tomatoes. Tomatoes you got to space out at about 24 inches apart because they do grow really big and really tall. So I have, I don't know, about 7 plants in there. Over in the next bed, it's going to get pulled up real soon, and this might be my dinner tonight actually. We have spinach. So the spinach here, it's in the hot weather now. Spinach is not an optimal plant to be grown in hot weather. Starts to bolt, and what does it mean, bolt? Bolt means when the plant, it goes out of its leaf production stage. So some of these plants are still in the leaf production stage. Maybe these guys here, they're just making leaves for you, and you could pick and eat the leaves all you want. Once it starts to bolt, it goes into its reproduction stage. And in the reproduction stage, the plant focuses not on making the leaves, but it focuses on making seeds so that it can actually grow next year. So at this point, this is the point you want to just start clear cutting it and harvesting it and using it before you lose it. In the middle here, we're anticipating the spinach coming out. We planted some zucchini. The zucchini squash will actually get quite large and take up a 3-foot circular area. So that's why we left a lot of space in there. In addition, we got some extra kale planted in here. Over in this bed, I pretty much have my garlic for the year. There's about 60 garlic plants planted in here, planted about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. These guys are quite tall. We're going to harvest these once the stems basically bend over. And, you know, I rarely eat garlic, but do like to enjoy it sometimes. I think garlic should be a medicinal food and not necessarily an everyday food. Over in this bed, once again, more tomatoes. And over in this bed, we have a mixture of squashes and cucumbers. Oh, and also watermelons. So these guys are going to actually vine out really large. Instead of trellising them up, we're just going to let them sprawl out all over the ground here. So we have sugar baby watermelons, a squash, Kakai pumpkins. The Kakai pumpkins are really neat because the Kakai pumpkins actually make the little pepita or pumpkin seeds, the green ones that you'd buy at the store. So I grow my own pumpkin seeds instead of actually buying them at the store. Definitely really cool. This next bed over here has more greens in it. Has some cauliflower growing here, and we got some lemon verbena over there, and more tree collards is the main thing. Over in this bed, I have a whole bunch of onions. I don't even know how many onion plants, and the onions will once again produce onions for the year. Now, many people may not eat onions, but I do like to eat onions on occasion. Onions and things like garlic are very high in sulfur-containing compounds that can be very helpful for us. So while I don't eat a lot of them, I do like to include them and not exclude them from my diet, although I don't eat them all that much. Next, over in this bed, we got a couple different things planted. We got some basil. Basil is another herb that grows really well. Once again, high in nutrient density. I make all the pestos I want for free. You don't have to buy basil. The best way to store your basil is to have a plant. Basil doesn't tend to store too well. If you do buy it, you want to basically put it in some water and leave it on your countertop. Don't put it in the fridge. It doesn't like to get cold too much. You know, it's a summer crop for sure. If your basil does go to flower like this, you can surely pick off the flower petals and eat it. and I just was actually topping these today by breaking this off and eating the whole top, flowers and all. There's so many things that you can eat that actually aren't sold in stores because they don't have an economic value, but I'm sure as heck they got a nutritional value that you should be consuming. In the middle here, I got a tomatillo plant. It's flowering like mad. Gonna have some tomatillos on it really soon, and actually there's one right there already in its little papery husk. In addition, for fun, growing some okra. Okra also does really well in this climate, and there's just a little plant start that's starting to grow. I hope you've enjoyed that tour of what's in my fridge, what's not in my fridge, and more importantly, what's in my garden. Once again, the things to take from this video are, number one, you want to start growing your food. Optimally, if I want to eat strawberries, I wouldn't be picking them out of the fridge. I wouldn't be going to the store. I'd go outside and harvest all the fresh strawberries I'd like and eat them. Actually, I probably wouldn't even harvest them. I'd just sit there, eat them right off the plant one by one until I was happy and full. This is how we should work and how we would naturally work in nature, but we're so into this consumerism society and buying things that need to sustain us, when each person, in my opinion, should be empowered and grow their own food. Not only is it higher quality, you will also be more connected with the earth, which is another thing that's lacking in many people's raw foods diets. So to sum it up, I want to encourage you guys to eat the freshest and highest quality food, and only pick what you could eat in that sitting, or as much as you think you're going to eat in that sitting, and buy only as much as you need to until the next time you go shopping. Obviously, it's better to go shopping like more days during the week. Like every day of the week would be good. Most people don't have the time for that, so at least go shopping every other day and just buy for the next 2 days. That way you're always going to be getting the freshest stuff from the store because they're rotating it and it's being sold and it's not sitting in your fridge going bad. Also, very important to patronize your local farmers market. Purchase from the farmers directly. That's second best after growing it yourself. So if you have the space, I would encourage you to start growing your own food today. You could do it in container, do it in raised beds such as this. There's many ways you could grow food. Be sure to check my other YouTube channel, growingyourgreens.com, to learn how to grow your own food so that you can start today and be one of the healthiest raw foodists by growing your own true superfoods that are fresh picked at home. Fresh picked foods have higher nutrients, higher enzymatic activity than foods that have been fridged, transported, and shipped. And that's something that's not often talked about today in raw foods, and that is my main message to you. Start growing your own foods today so you can be healthy, vibrant, and wise. Once again, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables, and growing them too. They're absolutely the best.